All right. So we are going to take a look at biological approach case study. This case study is known as HACCP. Okay. Now, if we are to give like a nickname sort of a thing for this particular case study, I would call it a case study on monkey toy preferences. Okay. So I'm going to write the name up here, and it goes HASSETT, HACCP et al. This is on monkey toy preferences. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what was this study looking to do? The aim of the study was to see if your male and female rhesus monkeys, okay, the rhesus monkey is very very closely related to us in like the brain and behavior mapping for humans. Okay, so a rhesus monkey and a human being is going to be doing same behavior under same stimulus. Now, we wanted to see if these monkeys are going to have similar preferences to different kinds of toys that human babies also have. Okay, and the results of this particular case study were very shocking for us because we did not imagine that rhesus monkeys would be so uniquely mapped in behavior as compared to human beings, because even without having any interaction with the human children, just by interacting with some adults in their entire life, monkeys were able to replicate a similar behavior pattern. Okay. Now, before starting off this hypothesis, the team of HACCP had created a hypothesis, and they said that if you have a male monkey, this male monkey is going to prefer to play with wheeled toys. Okay, so they're going to be liking a car or like a trolley better than a doll. Okay, so if I have a male monkey over here, they are going to prefer to play with a wheeled toy as opposed to a plush doll. But if I have a female monkey, then the preferences are going to be reversed, where my female monkey is going to prefer to play with a doll as opposed to playing with a wheel toy. Okay, this is like the hypothesis that they had. Now, in order to prove this particular hypothesis, the researchers decided to take 34 rhesus monkeys. Okay, all of these monkeys, they were housed in a very close to natural environment for monkeys. So this was a semi-natural environment. It was an enclosure, and most of these monkeys had been here for most of their life. Now, when I say
Okay.
a semi natural environment, okay, you can imagine something like your zoological park that we have here in Katraj. Okay, so imagine something where there's an open space available for the monkeys to roam freely. But yes, there is a boundary marking, and beyond this boundary, these monkeys cannot like move out. Okay, so they,
Yeah.
they had like an enclosure, but it was somewhat similar to what they would encounter in their natural habitat. Now, there were a lot of monkeys in this enclosure, but only 34 of those monkeys were observed in detail, and their observations were taken into consideration because they fit a particular pattern that we were looking for. We did not include any of the juvenile monkeys in this particular work, simply because you cannot differentiate between a juvenile male and a juvenile female, because the genders are not very obvious in monkey babies. They do not have
Okay.
any genitalia, and they do not have any telling characteristics, like there's no excess or less amount of hair on a baby monkey that helps you identify, oh, that's a baby boy or a baby girl. So we excluded all of the juvenile monkeys and stuck to only middle age rhesus monkeys that were available who had limited interaction with humans, but not so limited that they would not know how humans behave at all. So this was like the sampling that was done. Now, once we understand this part, let's go ahead and look at a few more details on this work. Okay.
So
Now,
shall I assume they were 17 male, 17 female?
no, nothing of that sort has been disclosed in the textbook, at least. Okay, if you want the details, I have the detailed notes. You can check there, but nobody is really concerned about the total distribution of male and female,
Okay.
because again, like when I say they were not able to ascertain the gender for juveniles, here also we assumed that they were male, because out of 10 times, 8 times they showed that preference, and some monkeys we checked for their gender. Okay, so it's like
Okay.
you did not want to interact with monkeys a lot because that changes their behavior, right?
Right.
Okay, so now when I say that we took these monkeys in a enclosure, what was the procedure we did? Give me a second. Okay, so for these monkeys, we sort of went into their natural habitat, and assuming this is like the outline of where they were, the researchers looked at different locations of the trees, and in these locations, they went and dropped a few wheel toys. Okay, just like left some wheel toys up here, and I'm gonna take pink for dolls and some dolls in and around the area. The number of these toys is not disclosed to us, nor is the exact location, but we know that they dispersed these toys in different locations. Now, when I say we had the wheel toys, again, it included things like trucks. They had moving mechanism, and like a child, a human child would play with them, and they would be able to move a few parts of this truck, and they would have like a motorized mechanism where you pull back the toy and it goes ahead on its own. Such a truck was included in wheel toys. And when it comes to dolls with openable buttons on the frock, or something where they had braids that had rubber bands attached to them, or colors of different skirts were included in the dolls. Now, initially, when the toys were just left in the enclosure, they were not observed, the monkeys were not observed, and we gave them a certain period of time, okay, where you allowed the monkeys to interact with the toy. So interaction time was not really included as a part of the observation. Once you let
Okay.
the monkeys interact with the toys for a certain period of time, the second you would say exposure to these toys, what the researchers started to do is they started to observe the behavior of the monkeys, and they also recorded the time that any monkey would spend interacting with the type of toy, and this time was noted in seconds. How many seconds did the monkey interact with a particular kind of toy? Now, when
Okay.
we have 34 rhesus monkeys, we have to understand that all of these monkeys were exhibiting a very natural behavior um, to their species. Okay, so these monkeys at times did take the truck or the dolls and they tried to smash them, and they tried to run away with the toys. All of these behaviors were observed. And after doing this procedure once, they repeated the procedure twice and thrice more to establish creditability in their work. Okay. Now, when the observation was done, the observation was more of a covert type, covert
Right.
observation. That means that there was no intervention from the observers with the monkeys. If you felt that the monkey is damaging the toy, you let the monkey interact with the toy as and how they want it. If it gets damaged, it gets damaged. You will not intervene under any circumstances. Okay, so I'm gonna write
Okay.
no intervention.
So it was similar to a natural experiment.
Yes, yes, yes. This was a natural behavior observation. So it was done as a
Okay.
natural experiment, right? Now, the next thing that we did is we collected quantitative data for the study. Okay. Now, the quantitative data was the amount of time that we spent interacting with the toy in seconds. This is very important. No other experiment has ever included the exact duration in seconds. It's too meticulous. This is a strength of this case study, that they recorded time not absurdly, not like arbitrarily 4 minutes, 5 minutes, but they recorded down to the seconds. After doing all of these observations and after looking at the entire behavior pattern, the experimenters came up with a few results to share with us. The first thing they said is that your male monkeys, so I'm gonna write male monkey, they prefer to play with wheeled toys, which is something that we did expect. Okay, female monkeys showed a sort of balance of interaction with both wheeled and plush toys, and a higher preference for plush toys was noted in females. So I'm going to write that.
Okay.
Played with both, but higher preference for plush toys. Right. Another observation that was made is when there were other monkeys interacting, or when, let's say, 2 or 3 times this same thing was done, we saw that there was a sex typical toy preference, and the sex typical toy preference matches with the human children, which means that if we do allow different varieties of trucks or different varieties of dolls to be interacted with, it was observed that all the female monkeys did have some sort of preference towards the female toys, irrespective of what kind of doll you presented the monkeys with. It was observed that some of the female monkeys held on to a plush toy while they interacted with a wheeled toy. But male monkeys did not interact at all with plush toys in certain instances. They saw a wheeled toy and they went right for it, and they started like moving the toy ahead, or they started like banging onto the toy with their hands, and they interacted in some or the other sense. It is like really important that we note that the interaction over here, the word interaction, was not operationalized at all. So we don't have any particular method that we know if monkeys did this, we are counting it as interaction. If a monkey went closer and observed the toy, we included that as an interaction. So playing with it, holding it in their hand, or simply looking at it for some time was all interaction, and we did not have any different observation done for this. Now, going over all of this material, we also see that this particular kind of preference towards toy seems to be something that your vertebrates are born with. Okay, this is something that is an evolutionary trait, and these preferences could be a result of some sort of development in our ancestry, which means that this preference is innate, and this is a word that they look for in your answers. Okay, so the first thing
Okay.
that you want to mention in your answers is that the toy preference is biologically driven. So I'm going to write that biologically driven. And the second thing that you want to write is that these preferences might be innate. Both of these points suggest that your toy preferences, one second, Both of these observations suggest that your toy preferences are somewhat a result of the nature side of the argument. Okay, if I'm doing a nature versus nurture debate, these 2 points very, very clearly tell me that I'm looking at the nature part. That means it's something that my monkeys are definitely born with. But when we looked at these monkeys in more detail, when we looked at were there any other external factors or environmental factors that were influencing their behavior, we are not really sure. Because when I say that this was a natural, close to natural enclosure for these monkeys, see, we said it's a semi-natural enclosure. It means that I cannot rule out that there were no human influences on these toy preferences. It is quite possible that they may have seen the other children who may have visited the enclosure, or they may have seen adult humans interact with different objects, and those interactions and observations of those interactions by the monkeys could have shaped their toy preferences, and we cannot rule that out. So the external influence of humans, or parental influences, or societal influences cannot be completely ruled out, and that helps you in arguing from the nurture side of the debate by saying, okay, it could be a biological influence by like just being born a female would make you more attracted towards a plush toy. But we cannot completely, and this, just having written this sentence as is in your answers is going to get you like a good mark for this debate. So just say we cannot, I'm gonna write, cannot completely rule out environmental factors. Okay, and the second thing is, you cannot rule out that the behaviors, I'm going to say behaviors in human babies and rhesus monkey could be driven by societal norms, parental influence, and observations of adults in general. Okay, this is all that is simply added to your syllabus. They did not make much addition into your case study. So if you look at your previous work where we understood about your chimpanzee helping, right? So that was one case study that you have looked at,
Right.
or there was, that was in your learning part though. Or if you look at your understanding of how exactly children, like really really tiny children, are able to learn aggression, or if you look at where we say that somebody is able to perform better at task, all of these case studies are something that you have already seen. With Hassett, this is not a very new discovery for us. We do know that males and females are going to have different preferences over objects, and this kind of does align with our understanding of how things would work. And so this case study as a addition does not put a lot of pressure on to somebody who's done the syllabus earlier. You just have to replace like some factors into this work, and you should be able to like answer a few questions on this part. Now, because this is a very new case study introduced. We do not have a lot of sample questions for this, but I do have a idea on the 10-mark question that could be a part of your assessment, and it's a very simple question. And if you are able to go over and answer this particular question, you should be able to remember a few facts and do like really good for this. But before I take you to the question part, tell me if there's anything from here that you want me to go in slightly more detail, because you know that when you do the syllabus, it's more of a understanding of what is done that you need to understand. Rest of it is basically just memorizing of facts. And so when I give you like a detailed sheet of notes where I have like a summary of everything written with all details, you simply have to remember those details. But this is an overview of the case study. Anything
Right.
apart from this that you feel अच्छा मुझे ये भी पता होना चाहिए, or I don't know how this was done, you tell me and I'll take you to that particular
No, so
process.
I understood everything that you explained,
Mm-hmm.
so I have no doubts over there.
Yeah.
However, I'm wondering whether the validity of this experiment was questioned or not,
Yes, it
because
is
their
always questioned.
hypothesis
Yes. Mm-hmm.
says that it is a gender-based stereotype, right? So the
Yes.
hypothesis follows males will have a typical preference, females will have a typical
Yes.
preference. So
Yes.
if they have not differentiated in the sample itself
Mm-hmm.
whether the monkey is male or female, how can the results be considered valid?
So the assumption, right now here, when we say that okay, they took these monkeys and they just assumed like okay, this is what I have, I'm expecting that because I see these characteristics, I'm assuming this is a male or a female. This is a risk you have to take every single time you work with a animal. Now when the sampling technique was decided, when the experiment decided that okay, I am going to use an animal, they were not able to ascertain this, and therefore validity is always going to be a issue. We were, however, able to observe the monkeys for a long period, and with 80% assurance, the researchers were sure that if they are considering a participant as a male, it is a male. Okay,
Okay.
so they were like, we are 90% sure this is a male. And that's basically what we have to accept at this point, because there was no other way to ascertain anything else about the monkeys, because we did not want to interact a lot with this particular population, because every interaction is ultimately going to give some sort of behavioral uh, change in the monkeys. So that's
Right.
something that we have to uh, sort of push towards. And when it comes to the validity, obviously, when you look at those observations, okay, we understood that on different occasions, so they did like 7 trials. Okay, this particular experiment was repeated 7 times, and they saw that when they took a very focused kind of a toy. So they took two very specific toys. There was a wagon, okay, and there was also a toy that looked like Winnie the Pooh. So they changed the type of car. So I'm going to say type of car, and they changed the type of plush toy.
Okay.
Okay, so even in plush toy, you can have a doll, and you can have another male type doll, which is your Winnie the Pooh. Okay, I hope I'm spelling the thing correct. Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, I think it's Poh. So
Yeah.
you change the gender of the toy now, right? And they also saw if making the doll into a boy would change certain preferences. So it did not. So we were able to establish that it's not the toy that the monkey is interacting with, it's not the variety, but it's the fact that it
It is the
has,
object.
yeah, it's like it has wheels or it doesn't have wheel. It is soft to touch and it is not soft to touch. This was something that was looked at. And uh, another thing that they worked really hard to establish was that there was a monkey, okay, and this monkey seemed to be taking either of the toys, and he started to rip those toys apart. And so we sat there and we just observed, like, what kind of toy is this monkey damaging the most. But when the same toy was presented to the same monkey after a certain period, he did not do that. Okay, so he was not interacting with the toy no matter what. And so this particular monkey was removed out of the sample, and the interaction period, which was initially a 25-minute period of observation, was then reduced to 18 minutes, because we saw that after a while the monkeys lost interest in the toy. So they interacted for some time and then left it after a while. We also saw that while these observations were going on, we did have the hidden cameras that were looking at the monkeys at different hours. And the monkeys were well aware that when they ask for food without a human being around them, the humans somehow know that they asked for food. So we also know that the monkeys could have played more or played less with a particular toy, being aware that there are a few humans observing them. They may have got a glance of another human observing them, and therefore they may have stopped the interaction. So the use of video cameras and a physical presence of a observer has definitely affected the result, but we are not sure how, because the monkeys at certain points in the enclosure are given rewards for a particular kind of behavior. And so when they saw that behaving differently with the toy is not leading to any sort of reward, the 25-minute duration could be a experiment that the monkeys were doing with us, where they saw, oh, if I interact with a toy, I might get a reward. And when they didn't get that reward, after a while monkeys lost interest in that particular toy and did not interact with it. So we
So
had
we
to
can
reduce the time.
classify this as social desirability.
Yes, yes, yes. This has to do something with hoping for a reward and behaving in a manner that could lead to some sort of benefit, because monkeys are developed in that manner. We have worked with monkeys enough to understand that they're capable of
Right.
behaviors like this. And because we used quantitative data, we know that the duration that was recorded in seconds is a very, very like a critical part that establishes the credibility of this experiment. But we also know that the previous pilot studies that were done, so the quasi experiment that you started, where you let the monkeys interact with the toys, which was like your pilot data, we never included that data. And because we did not include the initial interaction and only the interaction that was observable, it makes my data very objective. I did not
Right.
include the first exposure to the toy, where the monkey is obviously going to be very interested and excited to see something new in their enclosure, and they're going to be holding the toy much more, delicately, and they're going to try and experiment. Sometimes monkeys see something new, and their first initial reaction is to sort of flick the toy or flick any particular material that they're seeing, and they're going to touch it and pull their hand back, because they're trying to see if it is a harmful stimulus to them. All of those interactions were completely negated out. We did not include them in our data. That makes my data very, very objective. I am removing any subjectivity in the interpretation. I am not taking into consideration, oh, because of this, because of that. No, only what I observed has been recorded, right? But
Right.
now you can again say another thing. While I'm saying, yes, my observations are very, very objective, the observations were done by a few human observers, and that never removes the observer bias out of my results. It is quite possible that the observers who analyzed the videotapes, or the observers who noted the behavior, were very familiar to the monkeys. They knew what the monkeys behave like. They understood their um, body language, and because
Right.
of that it is quite possible that an observer just knew that a monkey was male. They might have without having like any intention of ruining the experiment, they would have just said that, oh, because
Unintentionally.
I know this is a monkey, they will behave this way. So that bias of always comes into humans, and so this observer bias may have played a role into having noted that, oh, because he's a boy, he interacted with a plush toy for 18 seconds, but interacted 19 seconds with a truck, and I will include 19 seconds as a male preference as opposed to 18 seconds with a plush toy. It's a minor difference, but that could have played
Right.
into the subjectivity of my result, right? And that could have influenced the conclusions that I have drawn. You can also say that there was generalizability, and the results do apply to my everyday life, where the captive monkeys are given new foods and new materials to interact with every day, and they may have realized that when they interact with something for a longer time, it is introduced to them in different formats. So they could try something like a particular fruit, and if certain monkeys develop a preference to eating fruits, next time when something similar is presented, they just might interact with it for a longer period, because they have developed a theory: interact more, get more.
Right.
Okay? And so we know that this happens not just with animals, but it happens with children too. And so if you keep on providing them with a stimulus and checking for their preferences, you can fine tune the preferences of children, or your pets, or like animals in enclosure. And you might even start using such exposures as a reward basis to fine tune the behaviors. So you can take this particular observation and use it in your everyday life, and sort of get behaviors of people, or children at least, to change. So that's like one everyday application that you can talk about, right?
Okay.
um there is this one student with me, okay, and while I was discussing this part, she came up with a very controversial statement for this, and that she said, like, where we say that uh, as humans, okay, if let's say you go to a mall and there is a very specific marketing that is done. So if you look at most of the toys that are presented in the malls or in any toy shop, they come with like a subtle uh, gender stereotype created already, right? There
Right.
are many toys that come in the market, like there's these train models, or you see certain uh, game boys, or you say like any sport related uh, toys that are created. They do have a subtle hint of blue color to them, and somewhere without knowing, we could be curating this thought in a child's mind, even if the child doesn't understand that, oh, this is what the marketing team is doing. It is quite possible that a toy that sells for a slightly higher price could be color coded with a blue color, so that the fathers, who are more likely the earning members of the family, would purchase a toy for their son, even if it is priced higher, and a toy
Right.
that could be potentially sold to a girl or to a working class mother would be coded with a pink color. Therefore, instead of looking at the preferences of the children, you are subtly hinting the parents that this is a toy you want to give your male child because this is a boy toy, because this is a toy
Right.
that boys are expected to play with, therefore nurturing the gender stereotypes that are already well established within the minds of adult humans. And it is possible,
Correct.
we don't know, like when you do the marketing psychology in your A2, you do know that we can play with like subtle tones of colors, and we can use those understandings into influencing your consumer behavior. So
Right.
this case study cannot be applied to a population of adults, because manipulating adults through color psychology is definitely easier than manipulating children, because we know that children do not have those established biases for gender with respect to color. They might develop those biases as a influence of the parents telling them that this is a girl toy, whereas this is a toy that we expect only males to play with.
Correct.
Right, so this is something that was brought up in one of our discussions, and you could use a discussion like this to talk about like how not only color but even your hormones, or like just labeling a product with a superman, or like just drawing a particular character onto a toy could have also influenced these preferences of toys, not just in monkeys but also in human babies. Okay.
Yeah.
um let me just see if I have written down anything else in my notes. Okay, yeah, so there is one more chart that the textbook has. I'm not sure which textbook you're using, but if you're saying that you've done the previous syllabus, then you're probably using a black uh, cover textbook with a brain on top of
With a
it,
brain, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there is another textbook. I can share that textbook with you. It comes in like blue cover, and it's pretty much detailed onto all of the work. This textbook has the behavior checklist for Hassett. Okay, now a behavior checklist is something that you're not supposed to memorize, but like simply know. You can be asked a question on what kind of behaviors were observed and how would you describe those behaviors. So there's like a list. I'm just gonna see if I can copy just the list over here, and if I can paste it for you. Just give me a second. Um, copy. Okay, so it's just pasting. Hold on. Yeah, so this is the behavior checklist that they have provided. Okay, and you could use this particular sample to understand what were the different behaviors that monkeys exhibited with the toy. So you can see like they tried to touch it but did not really hold it in their hand or in their
Right.
foot. Then ultimately, after giving certain amount of exposure, they stayed closer to the toy and they were able to hold it, but not like hold it with two hands like children would. They just picked it up and tried to see if it harms them in certain manner. Then monkeys tried to sit on it, tried to carry it in hand. When it comes to drag, we saw that some of these monkeys tried to take the toy back to where these monkeys spend most of their time. Okay, so if there was like a spot that this monkey had somewhere around a tree or behind a rock, then this monkey dragged the toy till that location, left it there for some time, and then discarded the toy in a random location. or
Right.
they tried to twist the wheels and tried to take out just the wheelie part of the toy, or sometimes they also tried to move the head of the doll. If it was a plush toy, they tried to see if the hair would come off or if the dresses would move apart and stuff like that. It was
Right.
also seen that when a toy seemed to have a expression in the eye, the monkey tried to bite that particular toy. So if you provide a monkey with a wheel toy that seems to have some character on it, like there were some cars that had Bob the Builder on top of it because they were like a mechanical arm moving toy, like a bulldozer or
Right.
something. And if they had like a boy drawn on top of them, they tried to bite that character. Okay, so they
Okay.
try to put it in their mouth and they try to see if like that person gets hurt, because if they don't get hurt, they can't hurt you. That was the logic that they were trying to see. They
Right.
also tried to take the doll and not throw it up into the sky like we do with children. Like, we don't throw the children, we like just push.
Right.
That was very wrong. So you just like, just like eat your children up in the air for like seconds and you hold them back. They didn't try to do something like that, but like literally just hold the toy and like bang it onto the floor, just to see
Right.
if there's like a food material or like a food packet inside this toy. And if the vehicle did seem to move forward or backward, then the monkeys were sort of scared. Like the male monkeys were observed to be discarding the toy if it moved on its own. Like if there was a mechanical arm that had a spring motion to it and they moved it forward and it recoiled back, then the monkey discarded the toy and did not interact with that one, but chose to interact with a more simple wheel toy. But the wheel preference remained in male monkeys. And this is like
Right.
something that was noteworthy, and it shows that the gender biases are well rooted within humans and within monkeys enough that even if they like a toy, or even if it provides a aversive stimuli, they're willing to stick with that toy because they see other gender monkey interacting with a different toy. And now they understand, oh, if this is a female and that female seems to be interacting with this toy, it cannot be for me. And even with an aversive stimulus to a car, monkey who were males decided to stick with that toy,
Right.
right? And this is something that is a very important finding again. Apart from that, I don't really see anything that you would have to memorize as such from this particular study. I am just seeing if there is any other material mentioned here that I could discuss, and something that you wouldn't have to memorize, you would just know. Nothing really. So I'm gonna do one thing. Okay, I am going to share this particular textbook here with you. Okay, and just take a look at this particular case study in this textbook. The facts like where was the sample taken from. So this was done in Yerkes. How many monkeys were looked at? So 130 to 135 monkeys. Both textbooks, the Cambridge University Press textbook and the Hodder textbook, both have
Yeah.
contradicting numbers given to you. So what we decided to do when I prepared my kids from school for the exam, we decided to write 130 to 135 monkeys. So give a range. When you are not sure of the answer, provide a closer range for your answer. Okay, that's
Okay.
like a very good way to ensure that you're getting the numbers correct. So some
Right.
textbooks say 130, some textbooks say 135. Give a range. Then they were from Yerkes National Park, and there were, initially when we looked at them, there were infant, then there were also adult monkeys, and there were also very very old monkeys, out of which we um had removed the juvenile and very old monkeys because we were only trying to ascertain the gender preferences of toys with children. Now there was another issue with this particular sample, and that was out of these 135 monkeys, we had 14 monkeys that had taken a prenatal hormone treatment. Okay, now a prenatal hormone treatment would mean that they were already subjected to some sort of estrogen or testosterone treatment, and that
Right.
could have highlighted their gender preferences. And so we were like not really sure if we should include them, so we completely disregarded their behavior
Sorry.
patterns in this case study. Okay, that doesn't mean that we put them under external distress and did not let them interact with the toy. We did, just did not note their observations. Okay, so
Okay.
no exclusion from the work. They were not observed for the behavior, but you let them interact. uh, we also saw that there were some newborn babies who were under the age of 30, under the age of 3 months. So there were 39 under the age of 3 month babies, and they were also not included. These were also not included. uh, Again, what was the thing? Okay, so in excluding these 14 and 39, we were left with a sample of 61 presumed females and
Okay.
21 presumed males. Now, whether these monkeys are males or females were ascertained by the caregivers of the monkeys. Like I said
Okay.
here, these observations could have been uh, drawn by the fact that the observers had a bias of gender of their own. And so they thought, oh, because this is a male, 18 seconds interaction with a plush toy is lesser of a preference as opposed to 19 seconds with a truck. And so they said, because of this observation, I think males prefer wheel toys more. This was ascertained by the caregivers themselves.
Okay.
So this is something to again consider. And out of all of these monkeys, we again saw that there were uh, around 30 to 35 monkeys that came back to interact with the toys uh, whenever the toys were presented to them. So they did not really show any boredom by interaction with the toys. They were just very playful, and no matter how many times we left the toys for the monkeys to interact with, every single time these 30 to 35 monkeys seemed to come back, and they were just as happy to see the toys every single time.
Okay.
In this sample, more number of females were seen to be interested in playing with the toys as opposed to the males, where the males like just exhibited more of a boisterous behavior, where they were more interested into playing with each other than playing
Okay.
with the toys. So these 11 monkeys, although they came and interacted with the toy, most often they would run behind each other with the toy, or they would just end up getting into small brawls with each other, and they would hit each other, and like more of a boisterous behavior was seen in the sample. But they did interact, and that was something that was also noted by the observers. And
Okay.
yeah, so this is something that you would need to know. Remember the names, Winnie the Pooh, and then there was also your like different kinds of toys. So there was a turtle, there was a doll, there were like some few animal plush toys that they looked at. And the more characteristic doll was this doll with like her hair tied in plaits, and it's called like the Raggedy Ann doll. Okay, these are not the toys from India, so you would have to make sure that you write those names,
Right.
because that trademark name is very important. And they were like bit sized for hands of the monkey, so they were not very large. They were not like life size bear dolls or life size cars, obviously. They were like mid range of about 15 to 60 centimeter length. Okay, that's something that was used very specifically so that they're not too large for the monkeys to carry with them. And if you get like details like this down in your answers, you are very likely to score good marks on this. And along with this, what I do have is a practice question that we did with the kids in my class. What I'm doing here is I am going to paste this question and the answer that the students generated. Okay, so most of the times in the classes that I have in school, what we do is we discuss a particular case study and we look at the past paper questions. But instead of just doing the past paper question, we come up with a similar question for us, and on the basis of that particular question we generate a answer. Sometimes we write the answers ourselves, sometimes we use chat gpt to do this, and sometimes we also go on a discord chat. Okay, so there's like a discord chat for psychology as and a2, and we post our questions there and we try to see if the subject like helpers. So you have like I don't know if you interact with like discord, but there's like people who help you specifically with certain questions, and so we try to see what answers those individuals are generating, and then we
Right.
sort of include all the points in our answer and make one sample answer for us to depend on. And so I have something similar created here, and I'm why is okay, I think I'll just have to select all. Mm, okay, so I have this question with the answer put up here. I would want you to take a look at it, okay, and see if the points included here make sense. This is not a detailed answer because we do want to also work on limiting the number of lines that we use when we are writing the answer. So this is something that we have done just a week ago because school started just a week ago. Okay, so this is the answer that we've recently generated. Take a look at this, take a look at the textbook that I'm sharing, and hopefully it makes sense. And then you let me know if you want to do some more work on the new syllabus, and then we can draw up a schedule for you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
so this is how most of the classes go, since you're like in an age group where you don't like watching more of the videos and you don't want me to go over stories for you. I keep it as detailed as possible while also making sure that I emphasize only on the points that are important. Rest you can read
Right.
and you can find out. Okay, so say within like a hour I'm able to finish one entire case study, and that's about how it goes. So when you said that you want to do the entire AS syllabus, I'm seeing that you have one, two, three. So there's Holzel after this, and there's Pizzullo, and there's Fagin, and then you have um, your Subway Samaritans is still the previous one, Perry et al. So there's like five case studies in detail that you would have to redo again, and that's like
Okay.
hardly 5 hours. So within 5 hours, your AS level syllabus, new syllabus is taught, and then you could
Okay.
probably use some time, and I will give you some questions, you solve those questions, we sit together and we discuss how you could make your answers better. And so give that like 2 hours, and it takes hardly 7 hours. I've done this with another child, and we did only 10 classes for AS, and she was like, okay, I'm sorted, I don't need any more AS help, we can focus on A2. And for A2 also, because she had not done the syllabus, it took us like a month long. Okay, so we did like more sessions on A2 because she'd not done it, and we were
Right.
done. So she did this for May, June, and she connected with me in the month of March. So it
Okay.
took us like 1.5 month, and we were pretty much sorted, and she was able to focus on rest of her subjects. So you see
Okay.
how it works out for you. You draw up a plan for yourself, and then you share it with me, and we'll fit it into my schedule, and say a month and a half, and you're pretty much sorted, and then you can focus on any other subject that you're doing. Okay,
Okay.
it's like it sounds
Yes.
good enough for me. You see, and you let me know. Okay. So I'm
Okay.
ending this recording. I will share the recording with you, and I